Hi, this is Ben with MakeUseOf.com, and today we've got a quick video looking at some of the best Chrome flags you can use to tweak your browser. Now, if you're not familiar, what are Chrome flags? Well, simply put, flags are experimental features that Google adds into Chrome. They're not quite ready for the mainstream yet, so you can enable them to get access to some different features. Now, flags are very volatile. Sometimes Google will take a flag and they'll make it a normal feature in the mainstream release of Chrome down the line. And other times, flags will simply disappear because they weren't viable or Google just didn't want to develop them anymore. So the first thing you have to know about flags is how you get to them. Simply type in Chrome://flags, just like HTTPS:// website name, and you'll be able to access Chrome's flags page. Now, while you're here, you should heed Chrome's warning that these are experimental features. While you're probably not going to lose all your computer data or have your browser burst into flames or anything like that, you should note that these could cause instability in some cases. So if you make some changes here and then you run into some issues down the line, you should come back and click the Reset All to Default button up here in the corner to get a fresh start. Now we're going to go through a couple of really cool Chrome flags. Not all of them are handy for everybody, but they're worth checking out just for some different features that you might want to look into. The first one is picture-in-picture mode, and by the way, each of these flags, you can use the search flags bar at the top. Each one of them has like a tag you can search for that brings you right to it. So click on over to the full article on Make Use Of to find those tags so you can easily copy and paste them. You don't have to remember them to type them in manually. So our first one is enabling picture-in-picture mode, and if you have an Android or iOS smartphone, you're probably familiar with this. Picture-in-picture allows you to right-click twice on a YouTube video, and then you can pop that video out and drag it around just like its own window, so you can watch a YouTube video in one window while you do something else in another, which is pretty handy. Our second one is tab discarding. Automatic tab discarding. So when you enable this, Chrome has a feature to delay or to put tabs that you're not using into kind of like a frozen state. So if you turn this on, then if you have a lot of tabs open and you haven't used some of them in a while, when the browser decides that it's getting low on memory, it will kind of put those tabs into a frozen state. If you click on them because you need to go back to them, it'll reload them. But this can save RAM because it doesn't have to keep a ton of tabs all in memory at once. Next one is our quickly mute tabs. You can type, it's called sound content setting in the anchor. This enables site-wide muting as opposed to tab-wide muting. So the default behavior of this is that when you right-click on a page in Chrome, on a tab in Chrome, you can choose to mute site. And the idea is that if sites use annoying auto-playing videos, you can mute the site until you unmute it. But if you disable site-wide muting in this option, then you'll be able to mute individual tabs instead of muting entire websites. Number 4 is automatic password generation. This simply enables you to generate a password in Chrome. If you don't already use a password manager, you might find this more useful. Number 5 is a handy one. It stops sites from hijacking your navigation. You can type in gesture to get in there. You've probably had an experience where you've been on a website and you hit the back button to leave and you can't go back. And the reason that this happens is because sites fill up your history with like phony entries. So when you click back, it keeps you on the same website. So this flag essentially requires you to interact with a page for it to put an entry in your history, which keeps you from having to hit the back button a bunch of times to get away from a site. Smooth scrolling is another one. When you use the arrow keys or your mouse wheel to scroll, if you have a lot of tabs open, sometimes people on a weaker computer report that they have some issues where the scrolling is kind of choppy. So this should be enabled normally, but if you force it to enable, you might notice a bit of a difference with the scrolling not looking quite as choppy even with a lot of tabs open. Chrome, one of its big changes recently, enable mark would be a clearer one here. Enable mark HTTP. So in recent versions, Chrome now marks HTTP sites. It says not secure. If you want a little bit more of a warning, you can come into the mark non-secure origins as non-secure. If you choose to mark as actively dangerous, not only will you get a gray not secure text, it'll actually be red. So you might want to do this if you really want to make sure you don't visit any non-secure sites. You just have to be careful because by default Chrome uses red to designate sites that are actively dangerous, which non-secure sites aren't necessarily dangerous, so you have to weigh that option. If you have an HDR compatible monitor, you can use the enable HDR flag. This will just enable high dynamic range content in your browser. Not everybody has an HDR monitor, of course, but if you do, why not give this a look for YouTube videos and the like. A handy one that relates to cache, as you're probably familiar, if you try to open up a page and you're offline or you can't access the website for whatever reason, Chrome will tell you that you can't access that page at the moment. If you enable the Show Saved Copy button, if you have a copy of that page in your cache, Chrome will show a button that lets you click the button and it'll pull up that cached page instead of just having to wait until you're back online, until that site's back online. So obviously you're not interacting with the live website if you're just using the cached version, but it'll at least let you finish reading an article or something that you were in the middle of when the site stopped responding. One other one is enabling autofill predictions. So Chrome, of course, has autofill, so you don't have to type in your address and your name and things like that all the time. If you enable the autofill predictions, it will place the autofill text in there as placeholder text instead of you having to manually add it in by clicking on it yourself. There are two options that you might take a look at if your browser goes offline often. So the offline auto reload mode, if you enable this, when your browser comes back online, tabs that were kind of grayed out when you were offline will automatically resync and get back online. If you find that is too heavy-handed, you can use the only auto reload visible tabs. What that'll do is only reload the tabs once you've actually clicked on them and made them visible. And then our last one is the disable hyperlink auditing. I'm sure you know, most entities on the web want to track you in some way, and this is another way that hyperlinks can reveal more info about you when you click on them. Obviously, this isn't going to disable all tracking on the web, but disabling this auditing feature will give you some small bit of privacy back. So those are the big Chrome flags that we wanted to highlight. There are a ton of more options. You can see here how many Chrome offers. They're not all useful for normal users. Some of them are development only, and some of them are just questionable. It's not, a normal user would never want to try them out anyway, but you can take a look. Like we said, just be careful because they are experimental, so you don't want to break anything. And once you've enabled or disabled any number of flags, just make sure you click the Relaunch Now button because Chrome needs to restart in order to apply those flags and let you use those features. So that's going to wrap up this one. Have fun with Chrome flags, and we hope that they make your browsing experience even better. For more like this, be sure to subscribe to MakeUseof's YouTube channel as we post videos covering tips and tricks, tech reviews and giveaways, and more. And be sure to jump over to MakeUseof to read the full version of the article in text form. Thanks again, and we'll see you later.